You're watching The Press Row. I'm Mike Sherman with columnist Jenny Carlson, John Rohde, and Barry Trammell, and we're talking about OU women's basketball and Little League parents. Folks, Bubba Paris was a Super Bowl champion with the San Francisco 49ers. He played at the highest levels of professional sports, but to some, he sounded a little bit like a Little League parent lately. Here's what he said on ESPN's NCAA Women's Basketball Selection Show just a couple weeks ago. This is their year, and let me be clear about this again. My daughters have contributed. They've helped them recruit great players. They brought in good people. If they don't win this year, it's your fault, Sherri Coale. Barry, does Bubba have a point?
Well, Bubba definitely has a point. Some would say that point is on top of his head, and I would agree to that to some degree. But in a roundabout way, he does have a point. As John pointed out, sorry, Bubba, but Oklahoma women's basketball existed long before Courtney Paris was a gleam in Sherri's eye. I mean, they were in the national championship game in 2002. But in a way, I think the pressure is on Sherri, and if they don't win with Courtney Paris, I think it is Sherri's fault. But the problem is not other people. I think it's Courtney. Courtney Paris is the same player today she was 3 years ago when she arrived. And she really hasn't progressed. If she had progressed, say, as much as her sister, if she had progressed the way Danny Robinson has progressed from freshman to sophomore year, if she had progressed the way Stevenson has progressed in a year, if she had progressed as much as we've seen Whitney Hand progress in 4 months. But Courtney Paris is the same player. And in this team, this season, this upcoming potential national championship game against UConn, they need as much hands on deck as they possibly can, and that includes a transcendent Courtney Paris, and she hasn't gotten there.
I wonder in that equation, and I don't know if we'll ever know the answer to this, how much of that is her and how much of that is coaching or lack thereof or pushing from coaches, because I think that's a little bit, it's a two-way street. I mean, the player has to do it, but the coaches have to also push those buttons. So, I mean, it's the Byron Eaton equation. I mean, he obviously, if left to his own devices, would not be the player he ended up being at Oklahoma State. But coaches pushed him and got him to that point. So I think, Barry, in large part I agree with you that I think, and it goes back to this idea of, we wondered when we'd get to a point with women's basketball that we'd be critiquing players, coaches in the same manner we critique players and coaches in the men's basketball game. Well, I think we've started to get to that point, because if we're looking for reasons that Oklahoma hasn't gotten to a Final Four until now, hasn't won a national championship with the Paris sisters, there has to be some blame laid at the feet of everybody, players, coaches, and that includes Sherri Coale. So you can't ignore her role in all of this.
The onus is on Courtney. Her very twin sister changed. She changed her appearance. She changed her game. She's got the same bloodlines. It's on Courtney. It's that simple. When I first heard this comment from Bubba, I was hoping he was kidding. We've given him many chances to say he wasn't or was kidding, and he hasn't. Barry, since when does a man of God start criticizing the coaches? It just doesn't add up.
I mean, that happens all the time.
I'll go see some church league games.
Okay, bad question.
Al Miller, the former football coach at Carl Albert High School right here in the Oklahoma City area, always liked to tell me, he says, there's three things everybody thinks they can do better than somebody else: preach, teach, and coach.
Okay.
So I think he's
Bad
got
question.
two of them
covered. I
Wow.
take it back. But it just shocked me, Barry.
Well,
and I think you should confront him on it.
Well, here's the deal. Here's the deal. I once had a track coach tell me he wanted to go coaching in an orphanage, because that way you wouldn't have to deal with any parents. But your point about Ashley's well made. A year ago, we had a pretty good debate, people going around saying, somebody saying, hey, Courtney needs to lose weight and she can be a lot better. And other people saying she's averaging 70 points and 80 rebounds a game. What more can she do? But then Ashley did it, and we saw how different kind of player she was and how more versatile that made her. And it made you think, man, what if Courtney could do that? Or what if she could play out on the floor just a little? What if she could get down court quicker? What if she could, go under the basket instead of just stand on the one side? A lot of different things, and we see that, in fact, Courtney Paris, if she had progressed, it would have really, really helped this OU women's basketball team.
Jenny, you talked to Sherri Coale about this shortly after Bubba's proclamation on ESPN. He maybe have thrown her under the bus, but she resisted the temptation.
Yeah, she said it really doesn't matter, and that's the truth. I mean, Courtney's guarantee on senior night, Bubba's challenge on ESPN, all of those things, at the end of the day, will not matter. It's about rebounding. It's about not turning the ball over. It's about shooting the ball well. So she's right. Although I got the feeling like the way she said what she said about that, she knows that there's added pressure on her. But there's added pressure on this whole team to make something great out of this year. So that includes her, and I think she knows that, and I think the whole team knows that. I don't think they're immune to that.
Now, we know this is all for the press row, but you can stay with the best coverage team every day at News OK and every morning at the Oklahoman.